Hey, welcome to Plant Kingdom. I'm just going to give a quick tour of my orchid collection. We'll start over here on this hanging basket. This is a Dendrobium lodogesi. It grows in these nice cascades as it gets longer, and it has a lot of little baby orchids. They're called keikis that grow off the stems here. That's kind of how it grows, is it tends to sprawl into more and more plants. Over here we have two Dendrobium orchids. They grow in these nice tall canes, and they grow spikes out of from between the leaves. This one's starting to kind of, the blooms are wilting on this one because it's at the end of its bloom cycle, but that's kind of what they look like, and they can get really tall when they're in bloom. I put frosted privacy sheets on these windows because it's a west-facing window, and the light that comes through is really harsh and can actually sunburn some of the plants. Most orchids don't like direct sunlight, so that's why that's there. Over here we have my mounted orchids. Some orchids really like to grow climbing on things, or their blooms look better hanging off of something, like hanging down rather than sticking up, so that's kind of what this section is. I'm really happy with how it looks. I need to put a hanging hole in that one and hang that one up too. And then over here we have kind of the main collection area, and I have grow lights on top and grow lights underneath for the succulents as well. Gosh, we got all kinds of stuff up here. This one is a coconut orchid. It's going to bloom very soon. It's got some flower spikes growing. You can see in these little sheaths. The blooms smell like pina colada. This is an Eclidia orchid, and as you can see, it's, whoop, don't want to knock it over. It is just starting to bloom, and that's what the flowers look like. They're kind of burgundy black and pink, and it's got quite a few that are still blooming, or still to bloom. Like you can see, this one's starting to split open right here, so the bud's going to open soon. Little baby Vanda here. This is a Vanda orchid that is native to a lot of Asian countries. It's actually known as the samurai orchid, or yeah, samurai Vanda. And under here we have mini Phalaenopsis orchids, or moth orchids. They're like the most common ones that you'll find in flower shops, much like their larger versions that you find like in the houseplant section of most stores. Let's see, these are all little seedlings here. They won't bloom for probably 2 or 3 years. Very, very small. So they're little 2-inch pots. This is a catasetum orchid, very, very interesting. They have a really fast growth cycle for a couple months, and then they go dormant the rest of the year. And so it's growing this stalk, which will grow a cane bulb at the end of it. And so it will basically erupt out of this pot and its next cane will be this size or bigger. And so it needs like a ton of watering at this time of year. Very cool. And down here we have some more, I wouldn't call them seedlings anymore. They're definitely bigger than seedling age, but they won't bloom for like another year or two either. Really just depends. And here we have succulents. I'll turn off the light so you can see their color. These are all kind of newly rooted cuttings, all different colors. They're really pretty. And I actually have some much brighter grow lights coming next week for these guys, because as you can see, this one, how it should be a cute little rosette close to the bottom of the pot, but instead it's stretching out, and it's doing that because it's not getting enough light. It's called atoliated is the term for that. They're atoliated succulent plants. Nothing's really wrong with them. The plants just stretch to try to find the light when they're not getting enough light. So there's 3 of them here are atoliating as well. So we have new lights coming for them. Over here, this guy's almost done with all his flowers, except for one bud here that actually grew recently, randomly. So I'll probably cut this spike because summer is vegetative growth season for a lot of orchids, and if they have a flower spike on them, they're still spending energy on that spike, and if you cut it off, it'll actually redirect all the plant's energy into vegetative growth, and then next time they grow a flower spike, it'll be even bigger and healthier after it spends some time growing leaves and stuff and roots. Over here we have a couple more orchids. These are 2 oncidiums on the left and right. They grow spikes whenever they finish growing a new bulb. So we should have some new blooms out of these guys this summer. This is a zygopetalum in the middle. It's an older seedling, so it's pretty close to reaching blooming age. So we actually have quite a few plants elsewhere in the apartment. In the kitchen, we have a little lucky bamboo that my ex-boss gave me when I moved away. And we have a dwarf umbrella plant that was in pretty rough condition when I got it from Mom. And it has since recovered quite handily. I keep a little dragon with it for company. And this second plant on the left here, which I thought might have been dead, is actually growing new sprouts all over it. It's super cute. So this one will hopefully look like this other guy eventually, and fill up that pot with nice bushy leaves. Next plant area we have is over here in this corner. Down on the ground here we have Connor's tomato plant, and he has basil, mint, and jalapenos in those pots. Up here we have Vendacious orchids, or Vanda orchids. They like to grow without any media in the pot at all, so you can see there's just a root ball in there in these slotted pots. They need watering every day. They're very thirsty plants. This one is called a sunshine. That's its species. I actually forget the full name for it. That's what these tags are for. Vanda succulents sunshine tangelo is its name. And it's got 2 more buds left to open, and this will last probably a month, anywhere from a month to 3 months. This is a baby Vanda. We've got a tarantula orchid here. It grows these really neat kind of spider-shaped orange, red, and yellow blooms. And then this is a little mini orchid. It's called a twinkle oncidium, and it grows these pink blooms that smell really nice. Down here we have a jewel orchid. It's actually a terrestrial orchid, and it's a cutting, so it came to me just a stem, and I just planted the stem. Now it's growing roots, and it's growing a new leaf. Its blooms aren't that exciting. It blooms in the winter actually, and it's mostly well known for the red on its leaves. It's got these neat red lines, and it's velvety, kind of like a lamb's ear, but not as thick. Moving on. You've got some air plants on the mantle up here. I don't remember all their different species, but 2 of them are gonna bloom soon. These ones, this is our tentacle terrarium is what we call this, because all these are like weird tentacly shaped air plants. And we've got, just your classic spiky ball ones. I'd have to look up their species. And we have them kind of in a symmetrical pattern set up here on the mantle. This is called an Oncidium lunar eclipse orchid. It grows really big white flowers with a purple rim around them. Very cool. That one should bloom very, very soon. I actually have it up here on the edge to make sure it's getting enough light to open those blooms. Down here I have some lower light plants that don't mind being kind of in the darker shade. This was one of the first Phalaenopsis orchids I ever got. It has been in bloom for a very, very long time, almost 3 months, and the blooms are just starting to wilt. Over here, these 2 little pots are lady slipper orchids. The left one just lost its bloom a couple days ago, so I had to cut the spike. And then the right one, it's still going strong. Very, very cool orchids. Very cool. This guy is a mini Phalaenopsis. It's called a looseberry is the name of the species, and I really like the color pattern on it. It's very pretty. So that one's in bloom right now. Moving this way, pardon our recycling area over here. I have a little Cattleya orchid right here. It's called a green veil, and it grows big neon green flowers about the color of that pot with a purple pink lip on it, and white too, so it's really cool. Can't wait for that one to bloom. Over here we have a section of newer orchids that I got kind of recently. Most of them are Cattleyas, so those are higher light requirement orchids. They really like light, and they like to be dried between watering, and they grow huge flowers. Most of them will bloom probably in about 10 months or so. This one is a Psychopsis Mendenhall orchid. It's really cool and unique because it's known as the butterfly orchid. It grows a flower at the end of a very long spike, about 2 feet tall, and it's kind of shaped like a butterfly, and the way it pollinates itself is it actually causes bees to attack the flower because as it sways in the wind, it mimics the way a butterfly moves. Bees don't like other pollinators in their territory, so they'll actually tackle the flower, you know, try to chase the butterfly off, and then they end up getting the pollen on them. So it's really, really clever adaptation. We've got a cutting of an orchid here that came with another order. It has no roots, so it is in a propagation cylinder right now. We're hoping it can maybe turn into a new plant. Let's see. Oh, we have a little propagation tray for some succulent leaves. They need a lot of light and just a little spritz of water here and there, and then they start to grow. They start to push out basically a new baby plant right out of the end. And then lastly, this is my little succulent section over here. I've got quite a few newly rooted cuttings down here. This is like a little fairy garden thing. The planter rather, came with all these little decorations, little fairy garden decorations, except for the dragon. The dragon's mine, of course. A snake plant, that'll go in another planter when I have enough to make another kind of arrangement like this one up here. These are strings of pearls. This is a set of 5 cuttings that is currently rooting. This is a variegated string of pearls, so they grow partly white. They're very sought after, and so are their cousin, the string of hearts. It's variegated, and the variegated version, instead of being white and green, is pink and green, and because they're hearts and they're pink, it's super freaking cute. And this pot will slowly fill up and start to spill out in strings, the same way that the pearls are down below, and then those will be really fun. And then over here, this is I think the last thing I have to show you. This is a lot of propagating leaves, so you can see this one's pretty far along, and a couple little buds sprouting here and here. Kalanchoes, a couple species I don't remember the names of. This one has the texture of a lamb. A couple have a like lamb's ear kind of soft texture, and then this is a ruby necklace, and similar to the other string of pearls and string of hearts, it's going to cascade over the edge, and eventually I'll move it to a hanging pot, and it'll just hang down. It'll be really pretty. I really like this area back here because this is a southeast window, so it gets a lot of light all day, and because the wall is light and the shelves are white, it reflects a lot of light back on the leaves, so it's really, really good for high light requirement plants without putting direct sunlight on them, because I can just draw these nice sheer curtains. And then, ye old dragon collection, please don't judge me. Alright, well that's all I've got for you. Pardon the mess. Well, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll give you an update when more things start blooming. Ta-ta!